Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host, Cody Tanner. Cody, how are you on this Victory Tuesday?
Oh, James, it's nice to have a Victory Tuesday again. I'll take a Victory Monday as well for next week. Just foreshadowing that, hopefully, with Sunday Night Football next week. Yeah, it'd be very nice. Going into Vegas and coming out with a win, that'd be fantastic. Because we all know how we play the Raiders. We'll get into that stuff on Friday. Watch out for that Friday episode. We are doing an earlier recording. James, you're still off of work for now, and I don't go into work until later. So this episode's coming out a little bit early. But James, I'm doing fantastic. I'm ready for Pittsburgh to hopefully get back on track. I don't know if this game was it, though. But how are you doing?
doing a little better today, man. A little better today. I wanted to take a second to give a shout out to a couple close friends of the podcast here. One, Dylan Sonny. Appreciate you, Dylan. You know what you've done. That was relayed on to me. The sentiment is greatly appreciated. You're an awesome guy. I hope to shake your hand one day. Also, our friends at the Let 'Em Know podcast. If you're big into fantasy football, these guys have it covered, man. They do shows every week. I think on Fridays is when the shows come out. Kyle, Mike, a.k.a. Badge, and TK do an awesome job on that show. Appreciate your support of our show as well, fellas.
Yeah, we're excited for that. We're excited for all the things happening in Steelers sports. Also, Steelers by the Lake news real quick for you guys. There may be some new updates coming for kind of our show and what we do and things like that. So keep an eye on that. I don't want to say much more for right now. James and I are discussing some things, so we'll be keeping you guys up to date on those things for sure. But now we're going to go ahead and get into the game, James. We're going to talk things before the game and then this football game, Monday Night Football against the Browns. Very first things, Deontay Johnson and Anthony McFarland both sent to the IR. Very unfortunate. I was excited to see Anthony McFarland do some more returning. I thought he was a game changer for us in that week one, even though we, didn't win. I thought that Anthony McFarland did a very good job. Oh, there's the crack. It's so smooth. I thought Anthony McFarland did a phenomenal job on returning these, the kicks and putting us in good field position. Let it rain, baby. And then so with that being said, they also then elevated running back Quadri Olison from the practice squad to the 53-man roster for the game. Or actually, they elevated him. They didn't just call him up. So
yeah. So crazy stuff, honestly. We figured if Deontay Johnson go on at the same time as Cam Hayward, so must be that they were checking him out this week to see how that injury progressed, and it must not have done well. Now, also, this Anthony McFarland thing, this is a knee injury that nobody was really talking about after the game, and it showed up on the injury report. We talked about on the pregame show that we saw this knee injury and weren't really sure what was going on. Well, it's significant enough that he's going to be out a month.
Minimum.
Yeah, at least a month. So we don't know. The rumor was that it happened in the game last week. I don't know if maybe he just tweaked something. Maybe it's a meniscus and it won't be that bad. I don't know if there's a sprain going on here, a strain. We know nothing right now. So hopefully we'll have more info for you at the end of the week as we start talking towards that Steelers-Raiders matchup. Inactives for Sunday's or Monday night's game here. There was only 4 of them because they never filled the spots from the guys that went to IR. Technically, the elevation doesn't count against the 53. So Mason Rudolph, tackle Dylan Cook, wide receiver Des Fitzpatrick, and cornerback Desmond King II were our inactives for the game.
Don't be surprised if Desmond King is not inactive next week. We'll get into that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's some guys that need some better play on the field, and he might be a solution for better play. So,
yeah. So we're going to go ahead and talk game recap here. I thought right off the bat, first play of the game, I didn't even get a chance to get logged into my ESPN Plus and get the game up before the freaking thing happened. I come in and there's 9 seconds gone and it's 7-0. I'm like, James, I texted him. I was like, James, what happened? How did we score?
The most improbable way ever.
Man, who had a bet on that? That would have paid out pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. And I almost feel bad for Deshaun Watson on the play because it's not on him, man. The ball was a catchable ball. Harrison Bryant let it go off his hands.
Yep.
Minka dang near picks it, but then gets hit by Harrison Bryant. It pops up in the air. Alex Highsmith grabs it and looks faster than I have ever seen him run up that sideline line. Look for a speed boost this week in his Madden rating. I bet you that thing's coming,
100%.
man. Yeah.
And his
Well,
catching,
what a
man.
great job. Yeah, and his catching too. So Alex flashes his abilities right away at the beginning of the game. And no surprise that Minka's involved in that play as well. And just like that, you have hopes for the game. I was a little bit pessimistic going into it with all the injuries that Pittsburgh had. Real worried whether or not they'd be able to take advantage of some of the matchups. And the defense gives them hope right at the beginning. So got to love to see a wonderful fast start like that by the defense.
Yeah, Cleveland came back and had a field goal. So it was 7-3 right off the bat. And then we got to see Kenny Pickett not play his best. The very next drive, Kenny had a pick. I thought it was just a horrible pass. I think he should have been picked off twice or more this game, if I'm remembering correctly. He luckily only threw one.
Yeah, he got fooled by the robber in this one. It was man coverage, robber, and he never saw it coming.
Nope.
So, yeah, looked like man coverage. That's where the mistake came from. Robber came over and stole that interception pretty easily off of him, unfortunately. Kenny was real up and down in this game, don't you think? Like sometimes he's throwing balls that were right on, and like the touchdown pass to George Pickens, perfectly
and took the hit
right in stride. George does a fantastic job of avoiding the one person who could possibly make the tackle. Doesn't break stride. 71 yards for a touchdown. Excellent throw. Excellent run after catch.
Who had the block on that at the end? Was that Calvin?
Probably
running down in front of him. Yeah, I think it was Calvin.
Yeah.
Just that
Calvin,
was a phenomenal
for a little dude. He blocks.
He does. But yeah, Kenny Pickett on the day, 15 of 30, so 50% completion rating, not good. 222 yards passing. That's not bad. But one touchdown, one interception.
Okay.
It's bad, and we'll get to this more later when we talk about the defense. It's bad when your defense outscores your offense.
Yes. Yes, it is.
It's bad. Offense put up what, 10 points this game? No, 13. Defense put up technically 14. Technically.
12, yeah. 12 to 14.
12?
They got 26 total.
Was it 12?
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have been 12. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because they went for 2 and missed it.
Yep.
Yeah. So then 2 field goals after that. But yeah, got to get more consistency out of this offense. The passing game, it seemed like, he had some great connections with George Pickens. He had a heck of a game. A lot of dump offs to Jaylen Warren that were successful in getting yards, but a lot of times it was in like 3rd and 20 situations and they got 16 or 17. So sure, you're getting some yards. Sure, you're moving the ball a little bit, but you're still punting on the next play. So got to find better consistency in getting the other players involved. With Allen Robinson only had 2 catches, Calvin Austin only 1, Freiermuth only 1. Never even saw Connor Hayward and Darnell Washington get involved with catching a ball.
Nope.
Both are options, both are weapons in that passing game. Got to start getting some people involved, man. It's not enough complete passes to get sustained drives and actually make some offense happen and some scores. So
and it's
100%. They got to figure that out.
It's 100% play calling. I mean, let me clarify. It's not 100%. I'm just getting frustrated.
It's 50% in this game. Yeah.
I would argue it's 60. I would argue it's a little over 50% in this game play calling. You had plays on 3rd and long that were designed to go behind the line or to the line of scrimmage. You had a 3rd and 1 where you decided to do some kind of awkward quarterback draw play that had negative success.
That was his worst call of the game. Yeah,
absolutely. And then you have 2 successful
second worst.
Second worst. Well, you have 2 successful run play. No, excuse me, 3 successful run plays in a row, and then you decide to pull out a screen or a not a screenplay, but an end around to Calvin Austin. And it just, it was almost telegraphed. Like, I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of the play calling. Again, we talked about Kenny Pickett. Najee Harris had a horrible game at the beginning. Luckily had one big run that made his numbers look decent. I don't know. The running game is all Jaylen Warren at this point, and he still only averaged 3.33 yards per carry.
And I feel like with the telegraphing of that jet sweep too, you can't do it different than when you're not running it.
Yep.
So throughout the course of the entire game, anytime it was fake jet sweep and a wide receiver went in motion, he went between the quarterback and the center. On the play that they actually gave it to him, he went behind the quarterback. Do you think the Browns didn't realize that? That's exactly why they were all over it. So if you're going to run that jet sweep, he has to run it the exact same way that you run it every time it's a fake.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no one thinks it's a fake. You know it's the real thing. So, yeah, telegraphed on that. You got to execute that better. If that's the way that's drawn up, it needs to be drawn up differently because it doesn't fool anyone if it doesn't look the same as the fake. If it looks different, everyone knows immediately what it is.
Yeah, and
I think the to be 100% transparent, the one play call that I think that was worse than the quarterback draw was the 2-point conversion call. That was awful.
That's
yeah.
fair. I'll give you that.
And running it up the middle isn't a bad idea, but doing it with 2 wide receivers and sending guys out and then just trying to jump over the top when you basically have like 6 blockers versus 8 or 9 defenders. No, that's a bad design, man. You can't do that.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, then you might as well throw a bunch of extra offensive linemen out there and actually smash it.
And we had a couple guys dropping balls. So the game, Najee dropped one. I believe George Pickens dropped one. Calvin Austin dropped one, if I remember correctly. Now, I'm not saying these are all on them. The Najee Harris one was very catchable. Kenny Pickett was having another off day. Throws were behind the receivers on wide open plays. He was putting receivers in bad positions. I don't know what's going on with him. And I personally think that he needed to play a little. I feel like now, I maybe didn't feel this at the time. I think he needed to play a little bit more in preseason. I don't think he's quite warmed up yet.
I think that the problem that we're seeing is that these defenses early on are getting a ton of pressure and he's getting a little bit of jittery feet. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, he's making a lot of these throws while on the run, which is the least ideal position for a quarterback to be doing it from. So the interior offensive line needs to do a better job of not allowing the pocket to be collapsed right in his face. And the tackles need to do a better job of not getting beat in 2 seconds. You look at the stat lines on this, and they didn't give up a bunch of sacks in this game, but pressures were through the roof. Kenny was running for his life most of the game. And that absolutely leads to inaccuracies. Now, some of these too, like the one to Calvin Austin, where Calvin Austin, you can argue, did he drop it? Was it a bad throw? I would argue it was kind of a combination of the two.
Yeah.
The throw wasn't great. He kind of had to go behind his body. He did get both hands on it. If he did catch it, he wasn't going to convert because the throw wasn't on the money where it needed to be. But if the throw was on the money, he would have gotten a third down or a first down on what was a long down and distance situation.
Yep.
So they just got to get in better rhythm, got to get more stout and not allow so much pressure. Allow Kenny to feel comfortable in the pocket. I think if he feels comfortable, you're going to see the performance be drastically better than what we saw in these first 2 weeks. But good enough to get a win, right? Let's talk about the running game from this game, Cody.
What, the Najee Harris 10 carries for 43 yards, the Jaylen Warren 6 for 20, the Calvin Austin 1 for -2, or the Kenny Pickett 4 for -6? Which would you like to talk about, James?
I would like to talk about the complete lack of running in the first half and whatever adjustments they made in the third quarter to get 50 yards rushing in the third quarter alone. So I like whatever they did. You saw a couple long runs out of Najee. I don't think he had a single run over 20 yards all last season, and he had like 1 for 14, 1 for 21 on that second half. Jalen showed some explosiveness in the game as well. I like how hard he runs, how fast he hits the hole. Just got to do a better job opening up holes. In the first half, the Browns went with 5 defensive linemen. Nobody does that. But you got to be able to trust your quarterback enough that if he sees a really heavy defensive front that you allow him to audible out of it and call a pass play and take advantage of the fact that they have less pass defenders out there and try to exploit some of those matchups. So I think they got to be more flexible to really see that mature, because I think Kenny can do that. I think he can personally. But you got to give him the opportunity to do so. If he lines up and he has no choice and he just has to call the play and that's all there is, well, then you're going to have a lot of run plays that go for nothing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for sure. I do believe that the running game, I believe the success in the running game came from the fact that Najee had a little bit more of a break to get off the field. Jaylen Warren was you got to bounce back and forth between these guys because they're drastically different play styles. And so, with that
Mhm.
being said, it's not that they don't prepare for each player. It's the fact that you're hitting them so consistently with different looks and different plays and different running styles that it's hard to get comfortable on defense to where you're doing the same thing every play and it's working, or you have your small set of skills that you're specifically honed in on and you're doing those. I think we got to do a little bit more switching up, and I want to see what happens when we put them both in the backfield together. I want to see a 2 running back set, right and left behind the quarterback or side by side. I want to see what can happen when we do that. Hand the ball off to Jalen Warren, pull not George, I'm thinking Georgia. Pull Darnell Washington and Broderick Jones around the side and let Najee Harris also block for Jalen Warren. That would be a stampede of dudes that are just massive and decent blockers, and a Jalen Warren's fast enough, quick enough to hit a hole. You could have a major run play with that. And then call it right back
Yeah.
and do a screen to Najee or a screen to Pat Fryer. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then
the
play
offense,
action pass off of that
100%.
you gotta be multiple out of the same formations and same looks. That's exceedingly important to offensive success. So
Yep.
some baby steps in the right direction in this game, but baby steps is really all it was.
And that's
And
saying a lot.
mostly yeah, and mostly just because George Pickens had himself a real nice game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, let's talk about it. Receiving yards and receivers. 4 catches for 127 and a touchdown on 10 targets. That's fantastic.
mhm.
I mean, obviously 71 of those yards came from that one play, but this is a guy that you got to feed. I'm not going to make the direct comparison to Antonio Brown, but some guys are just dogs, man. Some guys want the ball. Some guys want to be fed and want to have the chance to go out and do stuff. And even if you're targeting them and trying to get, like, they'll understand that. And I think he's like that. But man, last week was rough for him. And I'm happy to see him come back
Yeah.
and bounce back with a better game.
Absolutely. Hit him on the run, man. That's the thing. Hit George on these slants and let him use his stride and his length to his advantage. He's got great speed. You got to see it on that play. Once he got going, man, they're not going to catch him from behind.
Nope.
So I love some of the usage that he had in this game. And it's an issue when Jalen Warren with 4 catches is the second best receiver option in the game. So
And it's not
definitely
close.
just got to spread it out.
It's not close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys can do it. You just got to get the ball to them, and it's going to get more difficult. It looked like Gunnar Olszewski had what could have been a bad injury. We're not sure if it was concussion or chest or what, but he was hurting real bad after he got hit on the one play that he fumbled.
Yeah. Yeah, Gunnar had 2 bad plays in that. He had that fumble, unfortunately. And then right before that, he had that catch on the sideline for the kickoff that would have been putting us at the 40-yard line, and he toe tapped it.
Yeah, which gave us the ball at the 9 instead, which is just honestly an inexcusable mental error. You might expect like a rookie to make that kind of mistake, but for a guy that is a former Pro Bowl return man to make that kind of mistake, it was just maddening. I mean, I'm surprised I still have my voice. I was really upset when he did that.
Yeah.
Really, really upset.
Yeah, the guys that I was watching the game with we were all crap talking him, and it was rough. It was very rough to watch Gunnar make those 2 mistakes, and back to back it felt like same
it was reminiscent of that Patriots game last year, man, where he muffed 2 punt returns.
I said that, and we were talking about how he's a waste of money, and I'm like, I can't believe he's still on the team after the game against the Patriots last year, and I was like, the league minimum is too much money for this guy. It was just crazy. So Gunnar making mistakes, but again,
they made him take a pay cut.
They
did. They made him take a pay cut this year.
So yeah, Jalen Warren 4 catches, the same as George Pickens for 66 yards. Allen Robinson had 2 for 12. Calvin Austin had 1 for 10. Boykin 1 for 5. Fryermuth 1 for 2. Najee and Gunnar both had catches, but for 0 yards. I mean, that tells you the idea of where we're throwing the ball. Quite frankly, to these guys,
at or behind the line of scrimmage. Yeah,
that's it. Because Najee Harris and Najee Harris and Pat Fryermuth aren't the guy. They're not Deontay Johnson. They're not about to turn around and run backwards. Like, that's not how they do it. And Najee Harris, if you get in the ball at the line of scrimmage and let him fall forward, we're still getting 4 yards. Like, what the heck? It's just bad play calling, bad designs. If you're gonna have a dump off as an option, you need to make sure that there's somebody there to help block, that there's a chance to do breakaway. It's just very, very frustrating to watch how the offensive almost didn't play last night, quite frankly, because
Yeah.
I felt like they weren't present for 90% of that game.
Let's move to a little less frustrating part of the team to talk about, and that's the defense, Cody.
Well,
So
hold on. Before we go too
yeah,
far, offensive line. I thought Broderick Jones played well.
did he get on the field?
I thought he came in for, didn't he come in for like 2 plays? Am I blind? I might be blind.
Maybe he did. Yeah,
I,
maybe he did. It was loud in the room I was in.
I was okay.
I
Maybe
might not
I
have
could
caught it
have
if he
just
played.
assumed
I know
that
he didn't start,
he didn't
so
start.
I
I was
don't
hoping
know.
he did, but he didn't. Um,
Yeah.
I thought that who had the holding call or false start? Chooks? Was it Chooks?
Yeah, I think Chooks had a false start at one point. I'll give the O-line a little bit of credit as far as not getting Kenny completely murdered,
Yep.
but they didn't do a good enough job at all in run blocking. And they at least slowed down the edge guys, but I felt like the interior guys really made a big difference in this game. Myles Garrett, a complete non-factor in this game.
Not
So,
even close.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
If
he was
last week wasn't enough
he was
to
standing
stop
up.
the conversation.
I don't know what is. He was standing up and like limping a little bit, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, he was hurt. He was hurt. He wasn't just 100%." I don't care. He's not what y'all claim him to be. Nobody has more stats than TJ Watt since he came into the league with sacks, pressures, QB hits, all that stuff.
Forced fumbles, interceptions, fumble recoveries. He beats him in all those categories. Every single one. So
every single one. All right, let's talk D-line.
Yeah, let's go, man. So I think we should start with Alex Highsmith because he's the one that started the game off. Alex always beats Jedrick Wells at least once or twice a game, every game. This no different. He started the game off with the team's first touchdown, the first points in the game with the pick six. You don't see him drop back in coverage too often, but he said that he and Minka recognized by formation that play was likely coming. So they were both ready for it. And that shows the preparation, the game film study, and the fact that he was ready to do it. And then with the game on 5 minutes or so left in the game, he just absolutely smoked right by Jedrick Wells, gets the sack, strip sack, forced fumble. TJ recovers it and brings it in for what ended up being the game-winning touchdown. And you really got to take your hat off to Alex because just an incredible game by him. I thought he really put an exclamation point on who he is as a player right now. With there being so much conversation constantly about how good the Browns' offensive line is, I try to tell people over and over, they're a very good run blocking offensive line. They are not a very good pass blocking offensive line. So last time we saw the Browns, we sacked Deshaun Watson 7 times. This time we sack him 6 times. I'm not going to say that I'm right, but I'm freaking right, people. They're not that good pass blocking.
Yeah. I mean, you leave the game with 6 sacks. That's always a good sign. You had Alex Highsmith with 1. TJ Watt had 1. He also had 2 tackles for loss and that touchdown on that fumble recovery. Marcus Golden had a sack. DeMarvin Leal had a sack. Larry Ogunjobi had a sack. Elijah Riley had a sack. The sacks came from everywhere. You had defensive front guys, you had linebackers getting involved, and then you had the secondary getting involved as well with Elijah Riley. Fantastic effort all around and even some of the plays where we didn't get sacks and he threw the ball away, or some of them he got away and actually completed passes downfield. We'll get to that a little bit. The pressure was phenomenal this game, and I enjoyed.
Yeah, it was good, way better than week 1.
Way better, and I think that speaks volumes to this defense. And quite frankly, I hope that the offense can catch up because this defense is playing great football. I'm not saying that allowing 22 points in a game against Cleveland is great, but the offense didn't do a whole lot to put them in good field position or put them in keep them off the field to rest. None of that. So concerning with that aspect.
And Gunner handed them the ball in a great field position at 1, so not all 22 is 100% on the defense there.
Yep.
I can't say enough about how the front 7 did in pass rushing. Still got to do better in run defense. There was still some issues as far as gap control and assignments and getting the running backs to the ground. A few times it looks like they should have had him dead to rights in the backfield or behind the line of scrimmage,
Yep.
or even at the line, and then the running backs were able to squeak out a bunch of extra yards still. So gotta clean that up. I think as the game went on, you saw it get cleaned up a little bit better, but we got to start stronger with that. You can't allow teams to run all over you early on in the game. So I thought a little bit better play out of Montravius Adams this game. I thought he was doing a decent job getting some pressure on the quarterback. Keanu Benton was disruptive as well.
Yep.
But I loved seeing different people winning in different places. Like Larry Ogunjobi really hasn't done much since he's been a Pittsburgh Steeler. He had a fantastic game against Cleveland.
Yep.
He got himself a sack, and then he had another play shortly after that sack where it was just like, my goodness, he ended up forcing the fumble. So just thought Larry did a great job. And before the game, I said we need somebody to fill in that position. Joel Bitonio is susceptible to guys with length. If you can get into their chest and pass rush, you can beat Joel Bitonio. Larry Ogunjobi did it, and he's not a guy with he's like sub 33-inch long arms.
Yep.
But Larry made some great plays in this game. Nice to see DeMarvin Leal get into that sack column as well.
Yep.
So
we talked
I'm excited about the. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I'm just saying we talked about TJ Watt as well with the sack and the touchdown. He also had 2 tackles for losses, one of them being the sack. Cole Holcomb even got involved from the inside linebacker position.
Great game from Cole, right?
Great.
Let's be real. I thought he was kind of invisible in the first half, but with the game on the line in the second half, he just started making plays. He had a forced fumble. He started getting people tackles behind the line of scrimmage. Really thought he got very heavily involved in the second half. Same with Quan Alexander.
Yep.
You were mentioning before we started about how awesome of a game Quan Alexander had. I can't agree with you more. I feel like Quan was very active in that second half. Really helped to contribute with it. Elandon Robert goes down with an injury, and Quan filled in great. And if he keeps playing like that, I do wonder, is Elandon Roberts going to get a whole lot of playing time after that? He had one great hit, right? He had one great hit on a run stop, but past that, that's kind of what Elandon Roberts is you probably should use him in the goal line type situations and let him try to get the running back. Past that, it's tough because most matchups aren't good for him.
Yeah. And then here's the thing. Quan Alexander led the team in tackles. Quan Alexander's
pretty impressive.
When you got a guy like Minka that's all over the place and typically doing that kind of stuff, Quan Alexander lead is fantastic. And I'm just excited to see the options we have at middle linebacker. I do think that Quan Alexander needs to get more playing time, in all honesty. It's rough because I think Cole Holcomb does too. I'm not huge on Elandon Roberts. Right now I bounce back and forth. But the big thing with Quan, in my opinion, was the fact that at one point he actually got face masked by it was flagged by Deshaun Watson. He grabbed his face mask, pulled him down, whatever. And then Quan, in the middle of all this, like one teammate grabbed him and said, "Hey, stop, like don't go after him, whatever. You're like, they already threw a flag on Deshaun. We got the yards, we got the call." And he stopped. He might have still been saying something, but he didn't continue to go after him, as you see so many players do nowadays. And during this commotion, you actually saw Deshaun Watson throw one of the refs, which blew my mind. And it wasn't like threw him drastically over to the side, but he like pulled him and pushed him out of his way and started yelling again. And that didn't get flagged, and that was crazy to me. And I hope that he gets fined for that, because that's bull crap that he got away. I mean, any other player does that I've seen ever do that, they get ejected from the game immediately.
You're at least getting 15 yards right away.
Minimum.
Yeah, you're getting 15 right away on it. Maybe they didn't want to hit him because they were already getting him for a 15-yard penalty. But, the players need to understand this is how things escalated with Ndamukong Suh.
Yep.
Also how things escalated with Myles Garrett before he saw the light and decided, hey, maybe I shouldn't be assaulting players on the other team every game. Myles started off that season that he hit Mason Rudolph in the head with his own helmet by slapping a player upside the head. He didn't get penalized. So the next game he punched a guy with his helmet still on upside his head. Didn't get penalized. Next week, he went after him and hit him underneath the chin and didn't get penalized. Like it progressed as the season went on. I think he actually got a fine for a couple of those. But he was getting away with it in the game.
In the game.
So he figured, Why not rip a guy's helmet off and beat him over the head? I'm getting away with everything. You gotta stop these guys before they escalate it and it gets out of control, because that's what's going to happen when they do that. If he thinks he can push a ref, next thing you know, he's going to think he can punch one.
Yep.
So you can't let it escalate like that. Twice in this game, Deshaun Watson grabbed a player's face mask that was about to sack him and ripped them by their head, getting 15-yard penalties each time, complaining about it each time. That's how guys get hurt, man. That's the reason they call it. You're not allowed to grab someone by the face mask, whether it's a defender or a guy with the ball, because people get hurt when you do that. So if you're intentionally doing it over and over, yeah, you're penalized.
Yep.
And I think probably fined as well.
Yeah. So
Do you want to talk secondary, Cody? We haven't really talked about secondary.
I do want to talk
yet.
secondary. Minka got injured during this game. Actually hurt his chest on a play that unfortunately Nick Chubb, the running back for the Cleveland Browns. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy he wasn't in the game. I'm not happy about his injury. Nick Chubb is a force to be reckoned with on the Browns team, but I'm very saddened by the fact that he clearly broke his leg, had a severe injury in this game, and Minka got injured on that play as well. Was taken to the hospital after the game, and thankfully was discharged and seems to have avoided any kind of serious injury. But Minka, again, all over the ball, had 5 tackles total. DeMonte KZ had some tackles. Who was it? Was it KZ? No. Keanu Neal missed some open tackles, man, and made some bad angles and choices and stuff like that. It was very frustrating. I want to hear what you want to say about Levi Wallace, because I know we have some stuff to say about him. But dang,
we do.
It was just a rough game from the secondary, it felt like, quite frankly.
Yeah. I thought that KZ represented himself a little bit better than week 1, but he kind of had to.
Yep.
Because he got shoved into the ground by a wide receiver and made the look very small.
Yep.
I thought he played bigger than the size in this game, and it was an improving game out of KZ. Fitzpatrick, he put his fingerprint on the game early on and was a big impact in the game. Regardless of if you look at his stat line, you don't see interception or forced fumble or that sort of thing. But Minka was everywhere in the game, making all kinds of plays, getting involved, and did tip that pass that Highsmith intercepted and ran back for a touchdown early. I thought Pat Pete wasn't bad in the game, but Levi Wallace, Levi Wallace was awful.
Awful.
Yeah, he couldn't run with anyone. That long run that was stopped at the 2-inch line by Minka Fitzpatrick. Again, excellent effort by Minka. He was running side by side with him, and the guy just ran right past him. And it's and
he was the edge guy. He was the guy supposed to hold the edge over there.
He had contain.
Yep.
Yeah, he had contain, and he didn't have it because he's too slow. Again, Levi Wallace, when he came out, which was a good 6-7 years ago now, ran a 6.40. That is insanely slow for a corner, and you don't get faster over time. You typically get slower. He was able to kind of mask it last year in some games in zone cover. He looked good. He got 4 interceptions. He just is getting exposed badly in these first 2 weeks. And very quick early on in the game, I was screaming for Joey Porter Jr. to get out there because he's drastically faster. If nothing else, he can get his body in the way and slow people down. And it's just right now, I don't know what the use is for Levi Wallace because he's getting beat on every play. He's not helping against the run, and he's getting burned against the pass. So you got to do something. You can't just keep on marching him out there because the guy behind him is a rookie and you don't necessarily want to put him out there. You got to put him out there.
Yeah.
Because Levi is embarrassing us out there.
On a big third down play, that would have been a huge stop for us in the second half, I believe it was. He let a third down play go to the sideline, and it was weird because it was good coverage, but it was also horrible coverage. Like, there was no effort to break up a pass. It was just frustrating.
Yeah. Like he was just surrendering the catch and happy to make the tackle afterwards.
Yep.
Tackle the catch, as they used to say in the Dick LeBeau era. Allow the catch and tackle him afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what you want to do. You want to break on the ball, break it up.
Yeah. Elijah Riley had the 1 sack. We talked about that. Going on.
Shannon Zolvin had a tipped pass.
Yep. He also had a penalty.
He had a PBU. It was at the line, but
he had a penalty as well. I can't remember what it was. holding maybe.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think you're right on that.
it was a face mask. It was a face mask call for sure. But then, so looking to special teams now, Chris Boswell 2 for 2, Bos for president as we always say, 2 for 2 on extra points as well. 52 long field goal, which is fantastic for him. Everyone has talked about how tough it is to kick at that field or at Heinz Field. I believe that was towards the open end. I could be wrong. It might have been towards the close. Presley Harvin had probably the best game of his career.
Yeah, I thought great bounce back game, pinning them at the 1 yard corner. I had several of them inside 24 of his punts inside the 20-yard line.
Yep.
Out of the 7 punts that he had. A nice average of 45.7. And again, even like that coffin corner punt was, I want to say it was like 39 yards, but it went out at the 1.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's as perfect of a punt as you can have.
A lot of those plays that you have that get downed inside the 5 are because players got down there to make sure it didn't roll into the end zone. This one rolled out of bounds at the 1. That was a perfect.
Yeah, it bounced at the 2 and went out at the 1. I was like, my goodness, he couldn't have done a better job on that punt.
Yeah.
So he should be very proud of himself from this. I think Mike Tomlin's going to breathe a small sigh of relief. He's got to continue to show it, right? He has to do this week after week and show us that he is worthy of being a starting punter in the NFL because he's been so up and down in his career. But this was a nice big up for Presley Harvin on this one. So got to do better in the return game, man. Just embarrassing on the kick return game. We got to figure that out.
Punt return, Calvin Austin had a really good one at one point, almost broke it. And then on top of that, he had the good fair catch call that he got interfered with and got the flag for that. So again, we got the win 26-22. It was ugly. We need the offense to do better. Defense needs to consistently apply pressure and do what they've been doing and get someone better than Levi Wallace in there is my biggest complaint. That's where we're basically at right now. The injuries, Minka's chest injury, we got to watch out for. Gunner's concussion. Alandon Roberts was listed questionable and didn't return to the game. Unsure what happened there. And then we obviously have Cam, Deontay, and Anthony McFarland all dealing with their injuries, which hopefully we'll get them back as soon as possible. The next show will be on Friday, guys. Hopefully we have some exciting news for you that we'll share with you then before the game Sunday night. James, do you have anything you want to add?
No, man, just looking forward to seeing how the week progresses. Friday's show, we should also have some new Pittsburgh Steelers. There are 2 empty spots on the 53-man roster right now. So look for Pittsburgh to either move some guys up from the practice squad to the 53. I wouldn't be surprised if like Braden Fajoko gets that elevation.
I wouldn't be surprised if Gunner gets the boot.
Yeah.
Where's Steven Sims?
Yeah, I mean, if he's on a practice squad. I saw somebody say this actually. He's on a practice squad, so they could totally steal him off the practice squad and put him on the 53. I wouldn't be surprised if the Gunnar Olszewski injury is something that could be out a couple weeks, that they just throw him on IR just to create an extra roster space. Yep. Wouldn't be surprised, but look for some action coming this upcoming week. Friday, we'll give you a complete breakdown of what to look forward to on the Steelers versus Raiders game, upcoming Sunday night matchup.
Yeah, another prime time. 2 in 3 weeks. We love it.
Yeah.
We love it. Again, thank you guys so much for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, remember to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe and ring the bell. That's free. And until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.